Welcome back from the package this morning. If you just joined us, it is Daybreak Africa. Today, we're taking a look at a very important topic: misguided policies, effects on dividends of democracy in Nigeria. Now, according to analysts, misguided policies manifest in the declining capacity of political leaders to recognize systemic risks such as election fraud, terrorist attacks, head of farmer conflict, armed banditry, police brutality, and so on, and how to put in place the necessary measures to navigate these challenges. These are some of the things we shall be taking a look at on our show this morning. To help us understand this topic, we have a guest who has become a friend to the house. He is Mr. Itodo Simon Ilesanmi, is a social and political commentator. He is a lecturer, Department of Social Studies, Faculty of Management and Sciences, AREYOU Federal University of Education, Ondo City. It's so nice to have you on Daybreak Africa.
Thank you.
So today we're taking a look at misguided policies, and you actually heard all that I reeled out. It came as a big shock to me while I was doing the research, which is often when we have topics, we have to go on research to understand over and as we'll be discussing. And I discovered all of this. Election fraud, terrorist attacks, head of farmer conflict, robbery, banditry. These are issues facing us right now as Nigerians. Then I was wondering, how do you marry all of this with policies made by sitting government or governors or presidents, as it were, in the Nigerian context? I would really want you to kickstart the discussion by letting us understand what you think about what I just said, and of course your take on misguided policies before we delve into other issues.
Thank you very much. Policies are statements of directions. They are processes and they are principles in form of rules and regulation in order to guide, direct, coordinate, and overall supervision of a group of people, an organization, or any gathering. Policy helps the people who are being guided not to misfire or misguided. And it comes in form of laws, rules, regulation, guiding and moderating behaviors. Not only behaviors, resources, activities of the led and the governors and the governed. So we have types of policies. We have government policy, which we'll be talking about today. We have public policy, and then we have many other ones like that. Now, when we talk about importance of policy, without policy statements, there will be no direction. And that's why some countries or some nations of the world or some society are thrown into what we call anarchy. Anarchy is actually, very simply, a system of government where there is no government. A system of government where there is no specific government. Everybody wakes up and does what comes from his or her mind. And we have what we call survival of the fittest. So the highest bidder in economics rule the poor. Then class structure collapses. And then you see what is called a dictatorship. And that's where you now see those who are trying to fight for themselves, we call them human rights fighters, come up, and we have what we now call banditry, because everybody tries to survive. Because there are no rules of the game. There are no principles. The reason why all these are coming up is because there is there is something we call misguided policy. When we now talk about being misguided, policies are good. That's what I want to say. Without policies, there will be no direction, and there will be no curbing of excesses. We don't blame only government. Even the lead had to be, excesses of the lead had to be curbed. Then those who govern should be curbed, because according to one, I've forgotten him now, in governance, he said absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think that's Evidize or something.
Who?
Evidize. I will go and check up.
Well, the very first time I heard that quote was from the late MKO Abiola.
Oh no, that's Nigeria.
No, I know the quote is not original to MKO Abiola, but the very first time I heard the quote.
Evidize came up with what is called principle of rule of law. Is a father of the rule of law, supremacy of the law, then respect for fundamental human rights, and equality before the law, impartiality before the law. When you talk about all these principles of rule of law, when the citizens are ruled according to laid down constitution, when there is no laid down constitution, there is no policy, because the constitution is a policy statement. We have economic statements, policy. We have a political statements, how the people emerge to govern. Then we have public statements, as public policies, how public utilities and every other things are done, and how resources are being distributed to reach everybody. When all those things are done in normal way, there will be no crisis of banditry. When I have all I needed to have, and I eat when I want to eat, I eat what, not just what I see to eat, but what I want, without too much stress, then the society will be at peace. So the policy is good, but misguided means when somebody is advised wrongly and pushed or being misdirected to execute some policies, to make some statements, and to execute it. And that's why most of the times the presidency at the federal level, or the governor and his men at the state level, the chairman and his men at the local government level, whatever decision that seems to be misguided, adding hardship to the lives of the citizens, making the lives to be more, miserable and impoverished more than those people met them after swearing in, might not totally be blamed on the man at the helm of affairs. We should check the advisors to them, because when we are talking about misguided, it means most of the times we say majority might carry the vote at the House of the Assembly, House of Senate, and the House of Rep. The eyes have it, may bring up the wrong policy. Are we getting it now? And that is the area of being misguided. And the moment that one is done, the only one person, lonely voice in the bush, even if you want to use executive power, except if the masses try to protest against such policies, the misguided policy will work on the citizens and nothing will happen.
Let's talk about a few examples of misguided policies and how they tend to affect our unique democracy in Nigeria. Can you mention some of these?
Mr. Ezekiel, I know you asked that question. I've been expecting those questions. Well, this background and this foundation that I've just laid now takes us to, are you talking of this administration in the past or in the nations of the world?
Let's start with this administration first.
This administration?
Yes, Nigeria, before we talk about
well, I'm not here as a critic, but an analyst.
As an analyst.
Okay?
Yes.
And I'll be fair and just enough.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that I just appraise what are those misguided policies. Well, I can't here judge right away as a single person to say this is a misguided policy or not. But the Nigerians, what Nigerians are seeing, and that's what we call public opinions. What do the Nigerians all over the place, what are they talking about now, and what are those things they believe are misguided policies. I think we can take it that way. If you go to the town or you go to the city, everywhere, nooks and crannies, when you see Nigerians, an ordinary Nigerian walking on the street in Nigeria now, you will hear something like fuel subsidy without preparation or palliatives, without planning for cushioning effects, without, you know, bit by bit removal in order to try to prepare the people for the overhaul. So the sudden announcement which has landed or submerged the average citizen in poverty. Formerly we would have thought that, okay, it's those who are making use of automobiles, anything making use of PMS, petrol, but it has gotten to the fabric of the family life and it's shaking some families. So in fact, many families are in disarray because they must cook. The gas is part of it. And then, thank God, the light is a little bit improved. I mean, power. That's NEPA. The government is trying there. I think we should give applause to them on that. But the price, the high price tariff of, the hike in the tariff of electricity, the payment, that is for metering. And then those who are being given direct amount to pay for current consumed, it's on the high side also. That's another area. Actually, everything boiled down to the very day the announcement was made that subsidy has been removed without preparation for how to cushion the effect. Subsidy removal is good, or would have been very good if there had been preparation and planning for how to arrest the consequential and the attendant problem that will follow. I think the government herself could see now that what the economists, the theory of the economists work here, that theory of demand and supply and consumption, that you should arrange your needs a scale of preference.
Yes.
Then you opportunity cost. They will have one we call delayed gratification. You understand? So delayed gratification. You can still ride, you may drive car in the future, but you have to delay the gratification for now and start with bicycle. Then you can then metamorphose or just graduate to using motorcycle. Then from then, you can now begin to use car. So somebody who jumps into building a house without renting a house to start living because he has just gotten a job and has gotten the first salary of his life will soon fail. That's the trend we are going. So all the other past administrations who are trying to remove this thing bit by bit or delaying it a little bit, they were trying to make the Nigerians to accustom themselves to how to live with it. But removing it without that through the whole. Apart from that, we have other areas like floating of the naira. Yes, floating of the naira. So if you want to float the naira, actually it is good. It is to make sure that the competition or the swallow, like fish of Jonah, swallowing Jonah, the rate at which the dollar swallows a naira should be arrested. It's good. But if there are many firewoods in the fire at the same time, it creates lots of smoke. You have to take it one after the other. It is when you have made an end of one that they let the person feel the pain. It's like a nurse or a doctor giving an injection. You don't give 2-3 punch 2-3 needles at the same time because you want to give 3 rounds of injection to a patient, and everything must be on your mark, set, go, and the 3 needles enters at the same time. That patient may die and faint. But if you take one, if you give him one, give another one and another one by giving intervals of minutes. You are trying to heal, and the person will accustomed to the pain of this thing. And another one, there is what we call a tax rate. I've said that. And then we have state palliative funds transferred to governors, states, and all of that without serious monitoring. And these are the issues. When there are no serious monitoring, and we know because the thing came on us, not unaware anyway, but unaware because the announcement of subsidy was removed, has been removed. It just came as bolt from the blue. But after that announcement, many harshness, hardness, and impoverishment, yes, poverty, hunger, famine, everything greeted us and still greeting us now. So not knowing where to run to, I think the government was now trying to arrest the situation by adopting or just test running. So they had to test run, pushing cash. A government does not all that. If any government pushes raw cash to hands of people without using those cash to quickly start building industries, it is because they have discovered that their citizens are falling into a quagmire of life.
You have managed to actually mention all our problems and tag them misguided policies.
If you allow me, I will continue till the kingdom.
Now, the goal of any rational government is to improve the living conditions of our populace through economic policy, either through fiscal, monetary, or trade policy. These economic policies are mostly used to stabilize this and sustain the economic progression, especially during the period of economic crisis.
Okay.
That's exactly what my guest has been talking about. Policies should be able to help in economic crisis.
Yes.
But from the picture that you've painted, and of course from the voices of the masses that you've talked about, which is the voice of reason or reasoning, the people are crying.
The voice of the people
because
becomes the voice of
the
God.
policies that you talked about that is supposed to cushion and help Nigerians in time of crisis appears to be creating more crisis for the people. Like talking about the core, the king of the whole hardship, the beginning, the source of the hardship, which is the subsidy removal. Somebody actually said, you know what Nigerians expected from this present administration would have been for the refineries to be running. All the billions of naira and dollars that have been put into refurbishing and bringing back to life the comatose refineries with the heartbeats palpitating should have been put in place properly. We'll wake up in the morning and they say, oh, the refineries are working now. Let's talk about subsidy removal. Not just that. There's a round table on how to go about it, and advice is taken from all quarters. Nigerians are prepared, and of course they run with it. Now, you've actually let us understand that the policies are not policing the way these Gen Zs will say. Policies that are supposed to help in bringing down crisis is actually escalating crisis. If we continue in this trend, I just want your take before Ezekiel comes in, what the country will look like in the next 1 year, in the next 6 months, as it were.
God forbid that we continue in this trend for months. Let's talk of years or a year. Because the way it is going, those countries which have trodden this path unabated, like some of the African nations, Ghana has some times ago, when it always ends up in revolution. A time will come that everybody becomes tired and are ready to die. And that's why the government meant well for the citizens. But like the topic we are discussing today, misguided advisors or planning to execute an idea without informing subordinates or good advisors, or wrong timing of implementation or execution of such policies, or the wrong approval of some of the policies becoming law when they are at the stage of what do we call it, bills. Bills can die because bills must pass through 7 processes. Along the processes of bill becoming a law at the level of a presidential assent, normally such bills that are obnoxious, like what we are talking about here, that life-threatening. Life-threatening is not just diseases and sicknesses. Life-threatening, hunger is a life-threatening this thing, as long as all those, because if you can't eat, what will you be? What will you do? So there are life-threatening should have been killed along the process. And like what you said, what is going to be the effect? We have already started seeing the effect. But at this level, we still have, God forbid, I said, we might still have greater effects. We call it, there's a theory of future will. That's what we call future will. Future will is when something starts in an insignificant, unrecognizable manner. And it's like you must use microscope before you can, detect a virus. Because and as long as you can't see it without using anything, you think there is no problem. It's like laziness, for example. A lazy person will become so indolent. An indolent person will will not work. Even if he sees work, he will run away from working. So we detest the dignity of labor. And somebody who is not doing that will continue to eat. And the hunger, like Nigeria will say, Guwayaram. You understand? Please allow me to use that balance. And when the hunger comes, he must still eat, but it does not work. So he must find something. Then stealing might come. From stealing, graduating to robbery. From robbery, it might now become gang robbery and rape. Gang robbery and rape might now metamorphose into arrest. Arrest will lead into the court. From court to prison. From prison to death. That's what we call future will. The future will theory is that when something just starts like a smoke, quickly start quenching or putting off the smoke before it becomes a fire. From fire to flame. From flame to conflagration. From conflagration now, you see the whole place is the little water that you should have used to solve the problem of smoke. You now need serious intervention of firefighters with all kinds of drums and machines. We not put it off. What we are talking about here, we already see hunger in the land. We see trekking by people who are still famished and they're hungry on the road. So you will see people falling down sometimes and many giving up. And there are sicknesses that cannot be attended to because even the medical bills is high up there. So there are lots.
So we're saying you did manage to mention all Nigerian problems as misguided policy. I'm still going back there. And this is the problem that has tended to plague this administration, the previous, or should I say the last 3 administrations.
Yes.
So what then
especially this.
What then could be
the
major,
because I'm a Nigerian. I'm feeling the same heat.
What then do you think is the major reason for this misguided policy that has tended to plague not just this administration but at least the last 3 administrations? Because if we know for the fact this is a misguided policy, why haven't we changed it? Why is it still there? Why are we still suffering?
Thank you. Number 1 reason why all these eggs hatched into chicken, normally it should be chickens, now hatched into hawks. You know, you have eggs, you are expecting chickens will come out of it, then you take care of it, because normally chickens should be killed during this coming Xmas. You now saw hawks coming out to pick, to even come down later to eat up the rest of the chicken on ground before these ones were. So part of it is, or let me say one of it is party politics and political parties. So politics, let me just generalize politics. When you play politics with policies, we are talking of policies. Policies are good, but when you begin to play politics
with policies,
that the very policies that should help the nation and her citizens, you have this kind of things we are talking about. Then when you are too loyal to the political party that brought you up than being loyal to your political manifestos before the election, you told the masses some things that they should be expecting and relief that is going to come to their life before they voted for you. After the vote, the disappointment and the neglect of your manifestos and the loyalty shifting to the dictates of your political party that brought you up. You know, I'm not particular now because I'm just being generic. That is one. Another one is narcissist tendency. Narcissist tendency. A narcissist government in any nation, either African, black nations, or the whole world at large, will always impoverish the citizen and make them to be subjected to poverty and all these other things, to be less than human, so that in their suffering they can always look up to you. And instead of criticizing of not doing enough, the one you throw to them, they take it. It's a theory. It's a theory.
Now, we're going to continue on this line of thought because we need to go on a break now. And when we return, our guest will still be here. Stay with us. Welcome back. It is still Daybreak Africa, where we're taking a look at misguided policies, and our guest is still here. Before the break, it was actually making us understand some of the reasons we have the problems that we have as a people. And he just went into something very interesting, comparing politics with policies, that if you play politics with policies, then of course you're not going to get the right results as compared to what the people expect. And I want you to continue your line of thought.
Thank you very much. I said playing politics with policies. For example, if you are going to empower the youth, that's youth empowerment, it's a very good policy. How am I going to go about it? Is it to give them cash? No.
So how should you go about it?
Provide employment, build industries, establish skill acquisition centers, make those skill acquisition centers free. And those who are in regular education, like the universities, polytechnics, monotechnics, or colleges, and the other higher institutions, give them what we call scholarship. Give them free something to pay their school fees, but don't let cash enter the hand of anybody. Instead of giving them fishes, train them how to fish. That's how every nation of the world that is self-independent, I mean, in terms of being able to take care of themselves without relying heavily, as we are, to the point of importation of toothpick. After eating your meat, you have to still import toothpick to Nigeria. No, don't be dependent, so weak, like weaklings of a nation. Make sure your youth is your target, because you are going, the youths will take over. Then, when you transfer cash to youths, it might be a form of a thief collected it a thief got it. A thief collected it from a thief. I'm not saying anybody is a thief here. But all we are saying is that when you give me billions of naira to transfer as cash, instead of telling me to use it to build like 5 industries or 7 in this city where we are now, then tell all the youths to enroll. Go and learn those skills that will make those industries function. Don't forget that apart from providing jobs for the jobless youths, the products of that industry will still go everywhere and still bring back the money. It's not just throwing money, throwing 50,000 or whatever. And when you throw the cash that way, you know what will happen? You just throw to like 100 people out of 1,000 people. Then you bring it out in the paper that I've spent the money.
What happens to the rest?
So your guess is as good as mine.
Now there's a saying that everything rises and falls on leadership.
On leadership.
Leadership.
Okay,
on leadership.
Yes.
On leadership.
Okay, on leadership.
Now you've talked about politics. You've somehow brought in politics to the dynamics. Now let us take a look at leadership, the place of leadership, because like I said, I was surprised to actually see that misguided policies maybe something that comes up when the leaders do not understand the dynamics of what the people actually need. It happens when the problems on ground are not solved the way they ought to be solved in layman terms, just in layman terms. So when we talk about leadership, let's take a look at the type of politics we have practiced as a people. Take a look at the history of Nigerian politics. We're talking about bribery. We're talking about intimidation. We're talking about violence. People come into power through this means. They ride on the horse of violence. They ride on the horse of intimidation. They ride on the horse of bribery, all forms of it. If you sum all of this up at the hem, the one who carries the crown is corruption, as it were.
Yes.
Now, how do we articulate policies when the people who are the ones who give, or people in certain positions who are supposed to provide, we're talking about the effect on the dividends of democracy, people who ride on these horses to attain what we call democracy as a people in Nigeria, with the people waiting with their plates out like this to see the food, not just crumbs. I'm talking about big,
understand.
My plate filled up with what comes with the people that I put in place, but all the people get are crumbs. If people get into power riding on the horses of bribery, riding on the horses of intimidation and violence, how would policies be guided?
Thank you. One thing I want to tell you, I want to let everybody know here about here is this. The very law that you make and Mr. Ezekiel makes or I make, I can break it. So policies are good. Policy statements, very clean. When you look at it, if they are to be carried out to the letter, you will know that this is the solution. Staring me at the face here, this policy. Like the Constitution, I'm not talking about the 1999 Constitution, because that one has lots of faults and should be overhauled.
So which Constitution are you talking about? If you're not talking about the 1999, that's the Constitution that we have.
Constitution generally.
Okay.
The 1999 Constitution, I'm sorry, I stand to be corrected. The 1999 Constitution is part of our problem. Even after, under administration of Dr. Billy Jonathan, revision of that Constitution in 2011, amendment, yet there are still lots. Okay, when the Constitution, for example, approves an O-level, possibly can govern professors, govern managers, govern everything. And then even the person who has that Constitution is not following the Constitution. That's the problem. Because policies are good, but policies that are implemented according to how it is. And then we have some mechanisms checking up where they are not implemented to make sure that they are implemented. There should be rewards and punitive measures, and everything are enshrined in the and that's where the judicial system comes in, because the enforcement by the police, we have the enforcement level by the police, the soldiers, and all the security outfits. When that is done, the lawbreakers are taken to the court. The court and the judicial system, in the native parlance, general parlance, that the court is the last hope of the poor. So if justice is truncated, maneuvered, and compromised there, then we have what we are having now. It's a breeding ground for the leaders, because we are talking of everything boiling on the leader now. The leader himself trying to infringe on the judicial system that should be autonomous, because normally the court should be autonomous. The court should be. So when we have those kind of things, what will happen is that you see breakdown of law, because the leader himself has broken the law. Where there are special eggs that should not be touched, and that's see corruption, where people are punished for little things, and the others who have big usurp of power, and apart from that, embezzlement all over the place, go free, and they go to prison only to go to a place to rest till they will come out, and they say they have come from prison, and they look more, more aesthetic than I and you. Coming out, you see the bubbling nature of the earth because of all they have eaten, and they're lying to you that they came from prison, then from prison to contest again. And we have no political culture, we call it political culture in government, to have some principles and some of these policies to forbid ex-convicts never to contest. That's what the Western countries, some of the Western countries, sane and sound principles and policies guiding them. Why should ex-convicts be celebrated? On what ground should they come again to rule? And then ex-thieves, the EFCC, we congratulate them, we celebrate them again. And then the youths we are talking about, they are checking, they are following through, they are growing, and the old ones will be dying. The youths will check how it was done there, and that's if chaotic, it continues this way. So these are the reasons, and how it can be done, how it can be resolved. Well, maybe we'll come to that later.
Let's talk about policymakers' ability to actually balance their individual interests with the greater goods. Is there a way we could have, or a system we could actually have, that would cause policymakers to really look away from their personal interests? Because I think most of the reason why we have misguided policy is because we look towards personal interests, away from greater good, away from how this would tend to benefit the people. I know we do have our structure, I know we do have our anti-graft system, all around, which people tend to really doubt, and I believe you're one of them, one of those that tend to doubt our system. So how best do you think we actually balance this?
Well, I think if I should get you very well, Mr. Ezekiel, how to discourage the continuity of what we are talking about.
Yes, more so.
By the players,
yes,
or those who are still playing the game, or those who are coming up watching to take over. This is how it is, and it is now, and it shall continue forever. How can we stop it? Well, number one, our constitution must be either amended intelligently and having the mind of progress, and the nation and the citizens at heart, or there should be total overhaul. There are some selfish sections, like we're talking about selfishness. You said, how can selfish interest be raised? When you check the constitution, who were the one who sat down there to draft it? And that's why when you check some sections, I have a copy of the constitution. I didn't bring it here. It's there, because it's part of our work. What we dish out every day, so we have to check. It was when I grew up, and I took lecturing as my calling. I now had to, forced by my field, to go into depth from page to page. At the middle, I discovered this is something else. So it starts from there, because we are talking of policies. Policies drive your actions, and when a policy becomes a law, there's nothing you can do. Even if you are just born, newly born babies are under it. Number one, the constitution must be changed. Then number two, no human being is free from the problem of selfishness. If the Yoruba people used to make this proverb, I won't say it in Yoruba. Is that you want me to say?
No, please say it.
Wọ́n ní tí wọ́n bá fún ọmọ ẹni ní ọkọ, àfi kọ̀kọ̀ sí àkàtà ẹni. What that means, if anybody or a child, if a father gives the child, any child, the whole to make it or cultivate, he will always face his, or cultivate towards himself. He will never cultivate. Look at the heart, push it to the father. So that's it. And how do we stop that? Make political positions unattractive, so that when it comes to time of election, vote for me here, you will see people, numbers of people agitating to assume political positions dwindling naturally. I want to give you an example. As I am now, I know how much is my monthly salary. If you make it a policy today, the policy statement becomes a law or constitutional today, that pay every political leader according to his educational qualification. Do you think you will see people carrying cutlass and recruiting youths during election to become electoral gangs and killing? Because after all the killing and everything, it's what I'm getting in my place of work that will be paid to your account, apart from other logistics. That's number one. And then you will see people focusing on personal, private enterprises more than politics. Because you rather go into business or you stay on your job, knowing fully well that anybody now going to take up the set of authority or to vouch to take up the rule over other people will know that he is going there to serve, because there will be
nothing extra. Now talking about what you're saying, I mean, just to address what you're saying, I was going to ask the need to elect leaders based on pedigree.
Yes.
We need to educate Nigerians.
Yes.
You keep talking about the Nigerian youth. We need to educate Nigerian youth about the need to elect leaders based on pedigree. For the purpose of this discourse, can you please let us know, let the viewer know, how important the impact of electing leaders with pedigree, right leaders putting round pegs in round holes, how important it is as we talk about misguided policies.
It is very, very important that leaders are elected
based on
into
pedigree.
offices based on pedigree of accountability, transparency, integrity, human face, that's humanity. That brings us back to what is called a term called empathy and sympathy for the citizens. How do you do that? Number one, leaders who are corrupt should be charged to court, be punished accordingly, without bias.
As normal human beings.
Yes. When the younger ones that are coming up see it, that is to tell them themselves that if I want to vote, I can't vote for this kind of candidate, because the other one who was like him was punished some years back. Number two, check up the political manifestos before you vote. So vote them based on the past. And what is the past? the level of leadership at the baseline. For example, I'm in a university now. I lecture there. From that small space, pedigree means check the past records of life. Not until that person comes to the open limelight.
I will give you this. I will give you this. I will give you that. I will do this and I will do that.
Have video and everything covering you, and we can't check back. And that's why thank God for the age of internet and this age, that nobody's past is dug into until when he comes out to say, I want to contest. You will see secrets, even family secrets coming out. And that's part of it. We must know them. If somebody has been embezzling at the level of a local government or at the level of a manager of a bank, or when he was a proprietor, like that man that carted away the monies of parents some months ago, that story of a proprietor who carted lots of money
and traveled abroad.
No, later, if that person comes back to contest, pedigree demands. The law of justice or of pedigree demands that you check up and think of it. But the problem we have in this nation is that we quickly forget bad pedigree the moment we are face to face, shown face to face with cash. When we have there's more, when the money comes, we forget about the lifestyle, the reckless lifestyle that person has lived. So that's a problem. So pedigree is very important. Vote somebody who can alleviate your problem. You are not God anyway. You may not know. Human beings change. You may think it can alleviate, but there should be, at least in character is different from behavior and attitude. We have differences in dynamics of human behavior. We have something we call dynamics. That means instability and changes in human behavior. We have that. But at least to some extent, there's something inborn in every human being that you can check that this one will be a little bit compassionate, will be financially transparent based on the past. Then, does he have any criminal case before this poster came out to vouch or vie for position? All these things are, if there are things like that that had happened, don't vote for them. But we should think less of cash, money issue in election. As long as that case is not addressed, whatever we talk about pedigree may not work.
You know, citizens tend to feel not involved, disassociated from a policy making a process.
Okay.
You already seem ready for that one already. And so
I'm interested in that.
I really think so. We do have our House of Rep members, we do have our senators elected, to present us and make decisions on our behalf. But yet, why do you think citizens still feel they are not carried along? They are unaware. It's more like we wake up one morning and then we hear a bomb for a news, and we are not certain where did it come from? Where are we? How did it come? What happened?
The question is a straight answer. The type of government we are practicing. Now we have forms of government, we have types of government, we have arms of government, have responsibilities, functions of each of these arms. Now let me just forget about the details and go directly to the keys. Now we have types of government, we have presidential system, federal system, we have a cabinet system. We practiced it some years back where somebody was premier minister or the head of government and all this. Now the type of government that gives room for separation of power, that's federalism that we are practicing now. And the moment there is separation of power between the arms of government, the federal, the state and the local, it means it gives some level of autonomy to practice and do our own things at the level, though there are some general issues that will bring all of them together, like currency minting and then power, security. But when that government think of, actually it's in the heterogeneous nation, like we are having lots of different languages, over 300 languages and cultures or ethnic groups, you will the best government. That's why we are practicing federalism, actually, in order to get the government and the dividends of the government, or you call it democracy. I don't want to be mentioning democracy because I don't know whether we are practicing demomility or whatever thing. Or I should point out something else. You understand? But let me just say 3 arms. Those arms where there is separation of power to get the dividends of government. If you want to say dividends of democracy, well, I am not saying we are not practicing it, but dividends of government down to the grassroots. That's why there is what we call representative government. What do we call representative government? When you have 774 local governments in this nation of 36 states, then 3 elects from each local government representing constituencies must be sent to the central. That's the meaning. Then when you multiply the 3 around, it now gives 300 and something that we have at the House of Rep. House of Rep means House of Representative. That is where I'm going. So when your question now, let me come to your question that how can others get involved? The involvement is checking the 3 people they are sending, for example, from this local government down there, before all other representatives also will be gathered from all other nooks and crannies, grassroots, to meet up at the green, the green seat, green chamber. So when they are there, you can no more blame the gods. I won't say God, because God is not to be blamed in the case of Nigeria, but maybe we blame gods and goddesses. You can't blame the gods or the goddesses of our misfortune, because we opened our eyes like this and sent 3 people from where we are now talking here, and all others did, they followed suit. They all gathered there. So that is, they have already gotten involved. At the point of choosing those who should represent them might be the level where they made the mistake. So that's what, for example, that answers your question, answers the question Madam Anire asked earlier, that the representatives, how we can get involved, that we should check pedigree. So the pedigree issue is interconnected. Your question is interconnected. Checking and being careful not to vote for somebody because of 2,000 naira to buy rice today and suffer for the rest of 8 terms or whatever terms any government of any nation allows that is the leaders to rule. So checking the pedigree, because you have already directly, indirectly, technically or mechanically or in any form, you are already involved in choosing your leader by that. And then that's why we must discourage voting, money voting, money induced, financially induced voting. Then we must shun ethnic consciousness. We must shun political bigotry. That is, I'm in this political party, whether the person is good or not, let me just vote for him because he is a child of our, our blood, so from our ethnic group. I know that somebody is better up there, but since this person speaks my language, bears my family name and others, let's just push him there. When we get there, everybody sort out what he will eat. Every other person that had been there before, they went there, they cutted out what they wanted, and Nigeria never scattered. That's anti-patriotism. Patriotism is when you have the love of your country at heart. And now, what can we do? Part of what we can do is what I'm already talking about. We should shun all these games, and then leaders who do not live up to expectation should be impeached and replaced. Then politics must not be played in form of do or die. When it comes to that, there will be no hope left for our unborn children.
Unfortunately, time is never a friend on the show. Just when it is getting heated, we've been told that the time for our discussion is up. But I want to appreciate our guest, Mr. Itodo Simon Ilesanmi. Very soon we'll be calling Doctor, a social and political commentator, for being on the show this morning as we discuss misguided policies, impact on dividends of democracy. Thank you so much once again for being on the show.
Welcome. You do have a wonderful day ahead. I remain Ezekiel. Ogar.
I am Anire Binitie. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.
Yes, there is news on your device, but hearing an analyst's perspective is the icing on the cake that Daybreak Africa provides. Start your day with prompt analysis of the latest news, trends,
exactly, and then you see these people, they're so agile, they can do a lot of
politics.
We have to go back to that regional system. That is the foundation of this country, for God's sake.
Entertainment, fashion, culinary skills.
So first I'm going to be pouring the oil inside the pot and I will...
Religious and cultural events amongst others on Daybreak Africa.
For a rich mix of analysis on current issues, tune in daily from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on channel 480 and 124 on Startimes.